David Rowley,
Here.
Craig Gelbsman,
Here.
Tom Armeo,
Here.
Patricia Kennedy,
Here.
Cheryl Robinson, Andrew Marietta,
Here.
and Joshua Edmonds.
Here.
Okay.
All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you. Just for some meeting details, if you are not speaking, if you could put your phones on mute, that'd be helpful. I'll also try to make sure I'm unmute when I'm talking, unlike other meetings. Just a few comments. Yesterday marked the 11-week mark of this event that we've been dealing with. From a healthcare standpoint, the industry is moving quickly to ramp back up. We're probably about 75% of where we were pre-COVID. We hope to be back to by 90% next week. The good news is people are coming back. There is a little bit of that fear factor of coming back into healthcare institutions, but that has been minimized by people just needing to get care. And one good news of reassurance, though, is that we've been doing a study in the network over the last couple weeks and testing all frontline staff who were in the tents, the ones who were in the ICU, the ones that were taking care, all the swab tests. And we tested 500 of our frontline staff members for the antibodies to the COVID-19. And this isn't just the little finger prick. This is the one where they actually take a vial of blood and spin it and test it and do all the, chemistry on it. And the good news is that of the 500, we had less than 2%. I think there was like 5 people total that came back positive for the antibodies. So what that tells us is that all of the precautions, the protocols, the PPE that we've been utilizing, the negative pressure rooms, everything that we've learned, we've been taught and trained for many, many years to do has worked, which is very reassuring. So we're continuing to move forward. The one thing that is, still concerning is that we don't know much about this. We've been doing this for 6 months. I know it feels like it's been a lifetime, but we've only known about this virus for the last 6 months. Still a lot of research and, things to learn about this virus, but we've got a lot of research being done, and hopefully we'll come up with a solution quickly. So we'll go right into the approval of the meeting minutes. Any questions, comments, concerns? If not, can we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Patricia.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We'll move right down to the report of the Audit and Finance Committee and Treasurer.
Jeff Lord isn't here.
Okay. Well, I think we've got that minute in your packet, right?
I have not sent out those minutes yet, but I will by tomorrow.
Okay, yep.
So you will have them.
Okay. Any comments from any of the members who were at that meeting? If I remember right, there was no major issues during that meeting. We just paid the bills, received our deposits. I'm trying to think if there was really any discussion about any matter.
We discussed hail, but that's on the agenda for today as well.
Right. Yeah, we'll discuss that in a little bit. All right. Well, we'll move right down to the bills and communications, and we've moved all of those. So we just need a motion.
I'm pulling them up for you.
Thank you.
I did add the copier invoice since I sent this out, so that extra $25 was not on the original one that I sent to the board.
I'll make a motion to approve paying the bills.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. Your second?
This is Cheryl.
Tom.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Thank you very much. All right, we'll move right into the report of the Projects Committee. Cheryl?
Yeah, so without the notes attached, I think the big conversation was around staying the course on our priority projects that we'd already set out for the year, with no material changes needed on those at this time, given the pandemic. The other element we talked about was marketing and taking advantage of this opportunity as we might be seeing a real estate boom in this area. And Jody was working with some proposals from marketing firms on what that might look like and getting that moving. We did discuss developing a potentially task force or subcommittee within this team to work specifically on marketing. I don't know if anyone recalls anything else that they want to add, but those were the major highlights from the meeting.
Okay, any comments, questions?
That does about
All right.
cover what we covered.
Yes, I agree. So let's move right down to new and unfinished business. So Jody, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, on May 13th, we did hold a public hearing on the Skyline Hospitality pilot application. There were, at that meeting, 3 people who expressed some concerns about moving ahead with this. You should have the minutes from that meeting along with their letters. Also, we received a letter the 2 days after from Greg Horace, a resident and business owner in Hartwick, who also expressed concerns regarding this. Didn't include the official hearing since it was received afterwards, but I thought it was worth noting, and that's why when I responded to Jeff Ward's comments, I indicated that there were 4 individuals as opposed to 3 that are in our minutes. But with that, anybody have any questions regarding the minutes? The biggest objection, I think, from the businesses and residents was that it was for a hotel, which they felt was providing unfair advantage to that one particular hotel versus other hotels that have been done, that have not been done. There was some, while there were some comments made that we shouldn't be giving tax breaks because of the loss in tax revenues, most of the people who spoke says, well, if it was for a manufacturing firm, that would be a different story. So I think it really has to do with the hotel operation as opposed to a pilot tax exemption in itself. So does anybody have any comments regarding the minutes?
I have a question. I have a question, Jody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I went through the minutes, and was there, or did, I'm not positive, I'm trying to read it, but was there an objection from the town board?
The town supervisor sent in a letter that was, and I actually went through their board video conference, and it was a town board that recommended sending a letter objecting to it. We were also kind of informed by the town board representative on the county board that we could expect, even before we announced that we're holding a public hearing, that the town supervisor was going to be against it, as he's been against it from the beginning.
But was it not unanimous that the entire town board signed that letter, was on board with that letter?
Yes.
Well, they were on board with the letter, yes.
Okay. All right, then I didn't read it wrong. Thank you.
Other discussion? Go ahead, Jody, continue.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the approving resolution for this project, Skyline. Should be Skyline Hospitality as opposed to Skyline Drive. I believe that Chris is on from Hotchkiss and Russ since Joe couldn't make it, and maybe he could make a few comments regarding the approving resolution.
Thanks, Jody. Good morning, everybody. Rather than not go line by line through the approving resolution, I'm not sure how Joe handles it, but I think it probably makes sense to just cover the big picture items. If you start on page 2 of the resolution, we go through that it describes the project, the hotel project itself. The public hearing, as Jody mentioned, has already been held. On page 3, it notes that the IDA is piggybacking off the town planning board's secret determination. We go through the underlying documents that will be approved, a lease back, a license. Note that we are not approving a pilot agreement. I'll get to that in a little bit, but that's not a part of what's being approved today. So if you turn to page 4, we go to the agency determines that this is a project under the IDA statute. It notes the project amount. It notes that this project is not subject to the retail prohibition. It's an exception because it is a tourism destination facility. That's the hotel. On the next page, we authorize the IDA to enter into the underlying documents. The chair and the vice chair are authorized to approve documents, to negotiate the form and substance of the documents. And as you note on the second last section 10 notes that the agency authorizes Jody to send out a written notice to the tax jurisdictions about a proposed deviation. And in this case, from what I understand, talking with Jody and talking with Joe Scott yesterday, this is technically a deviation because the pilot terms that are being offered are a little less generous than what are provided in the UTEP, your UTEP rather. So for the sake of caution, we would draft a pilot deviation letter that would be sent out to the tax jurisdictions. You would wait 30 days from that letter, which we would draft on your behalf, for any comment. And then at the next IDA meeting, the board would approve the deviation itself as well as the pilot agreement. So that's kind of the universe of what's covered by this resolution. Happy to answer any questions anybody has.
So we're just approving today to go to the next step.
That's right. That's correct.
Okay, so we're not approving the project itself.
No, you are approving the project itself. You are. The only thing you're not approving is the pilot agreement. Everything else is covered. You're approving the entering into the transaction, entering into all the agreements other than the pilot agreement, and you're authorizing sending out the deviation letter. So this is the second to last step in this case. Most of the time, you'll recall the approving resolution is the last step, but because we have a deviation here, this is the second to last step, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So thoughts, questions, concerns?
I have a question. Jody, what was the reason for the objection of the town board?
The objection from the town board what they indicated that they were slashing the budget and exploring ways to trim expenditures in line with severe reductions in revenues. We asked that Skyline Hospitality do the same and pay their fair share.
My question is about that position is if 55% of the income for the county sales tax, bed tax, and sales tax and bed tax. The short term is we won't get the taxes. The long term, you're going to get income from people coming to visit. Everyone knows occupancy in the summers is full, in the winter it's light anyway. You know, the county incomes long term will be increased with more people's heads in beds during the season. I understand what they're saying, and I would understand, we haven't done it before, But if we're saying we would do it from this day forward, even and forevermore, you know, it's a different perspective, and sounds like a scarcity argument to me.
Well, the town board's letter goes on to say, while we are certain that the addition of this project to our community will benefit us in the form of bed tax and sales tax, we are concerned about the possibility of additional beds negatively impacting private home rentals in our community. None of these private homeowners have received financial assistance with their projects. So I think it's not so much the loss of revenues, but the potential impact on people renting out their homes.
Well, we can't really be afraid of competition. That's how things work.
And I read through a number of the stuff that got sent out, and it sounds like most of the objection is in the financial assistance in the forms of the abating the taxes. It sounds like they're fine, or it sounds like most people were okay with the hotel going in there, but they just didn't feel that it justified enough benefits to the community such that the county or the would cut taxes on it. I mean, is that a correct summary, or am I missing something?
Yes, that's correct.
I think that's somewhat of a correct summary.
So Jody, in absence of this, they could do, what was it, a 485 or whatever, and still avoid paying the full share. The IDA makes some money off a pilot. That's what other builders have done, so they did get a break, as I understand it. So we're in the middle of this. Is that correct?
The reason we're doing a deviation letter is that this pilot would give them less benefits under the pilot program than we would do under our normal program. They're basically just getting a 485B of the tax law, which they could do anyway without our assistance. I think the one hotel owner who objected to it was raising the issue on, well, that's fine, and I understand that, but they're also getting a sales tax exemption. And that one-time sales tax exemption was an unfair advantage they claimed.
Right.
Well, it's credible.
This is Craig speaking. I don't think this is the first time we've done a hotel. I don't know if you've looked back maybe 15 or 20 years, but I think we've done a couple hotels, and Jeff could speak to that. Is it vacant land? I mean, have they looked at the idea that if it doesn't go in, that the land stays vacant at that tax rate? And with the assessment, have they laid out the assessment in this of the new hotel and how they might be paying more taxes than being empty at this point? So usually what happens in these situations, correct, Jody?
That's correct, Craig. You're right.
So if you look at the whole project and you look at the value of the project, you have to make those decisions. That's generally what we've looked at in the past at the IDA is what the increase in value is, and many times they are spending more. The town doesn't look deeply into everything because they're not full-time employees, but they forget that the value of that land at that point is very little income on tax, and then rather than looking at what the value of that project is going to be going forward and the potential income for taxes. Similar to what went on in the city of Oneonta with up by the school with that housing development, where they were paying $400 a year in taxes, and even with the pilot, they're now paying close to $20,000 a year after the project is done. So there's many ways to dice this up, and I do feel that there is an unfair advantage, but if you lay out the numbers, people, and if they understand all the numbers, it might help them to understand the decisions that we make and how we move forward. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same thing, Craig, when I looked at the public hearing notice. It's a little over 6 acres of vacant property that in the end, even under a pilot, this is a net sum increase in tax revenue to the town. And obviously, as the pilot dissipates, it's going to be a huge tax benefit to the town compared to 6.1 acres of grass.
Right. I think the other piece to this is that the project is actually going to move forward. I mean, that, you know, I mean, they're like, if we really want to look at this current environment, I think it, without question, there are development projects that are going to die for a variety of reasons. So I mean, I think at this point, it's in our best interest to, you know, try to make sure that we give them the tools that will help them get this development done to our benefit, because it does, in the long run. You know, we all know the very difficult financial position we're in right now, but you know, we're having this conversation at the Cooperstown Chamber. I know Destination Marketing's having this conversation. You know, I think we want to position Cooperstown to be even more successful, and more rooms will allow us to generate more.
Otsego County, by the way. Otsego County, not just Cooperstown.
Oh yeah, I got it, Craig. I know. But Destination Marketing serves the entire county, so I mean that's what I was.
But your Freudian slip is noted.
There you
well,
go.
I'm on the Cooperstown Chamber board, so we just had a board meeting yesterday, and we were hearing some updates from some local accommodations here. So you know, I think you know, at the end of the day, you know, Cooperstown, Oneonta, Otsego County, you know, it's a Destination Marketing is countywide. More bed tax dollars. Yeah, right now we're obviously not seeing any or limited generation, but as we move into the summer and fall and we look to next year, I mean, you know, I think that's where we have to be optimistic and make this investment.
All right. Any other comments?
There, and I don't think a lot of these individuals in business, and being myself, that there's a cost to them getting this benefit that we get checks from that people don't understand. So there's a net to us, obviously, but we have to survive in order to give these benefits to any business that comes in. So there is a cost to them to do it. Obviously, so that people look at. A lot of people don't apply. We know that people, they look and they go, wow, I want to get a tax abatement. Oh, but there's a cost to this. Well, I'm not going to do it because it's going to. So there's more to the, there's more in between the lines than people understand. So I think that needs to be explained. That's Jody's job, to go to the town board and explain all these things to the town board. And I know a lot of those people on those boards that they don't understand the whole part of it. They just think it's net zero and that's it, and so they make these judgments without truly understanding what's going on. So I think it's vitally important to get that information out there and put those numbers on paper so people can see it.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing. If we can get these numbers down on paper and really be able to speak to that, I think that would be important, especially at the town board level, as Craig mentioned. And I also want to kind of second what Tom was saying around, you know, what happened in the past happened, but this is our criteria working now. And so as long as we're staying consistent in our criteria moving forward, I feel comfortable with our decision here. So, you know, if it's in 3 years, another hotel's coming to us, again, applying the same criteria, then I think we're doing our due diligence.
I agree, Cheryl. And I agree, Tom.
Absolutely. I agree also.
All right. I think we can move forward with a vote. So can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Dave. Can I get a second?
Tom?
Thank you, Tom. Megan, you want to do the vote?
Yes. Jeff Joyner,
Yes.
Jeff Lord, David Rowley,
Yes.
Craig Gelbsman,
Yes.
Tom Armeo,
Yes.
Patricia Kennedy, I think she left, Cheryl Robinson,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
Joshua.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you. Jody, you want to go next to the CBRE?
Yes, at the last committee meetings, we discussed having the IOXIS building reassessed or reappraised since it's been 5 years since the building's been reappraised and we have a potential buyer with that. The board did originally asked me to talk to Olin appraisers to update the appraisal. Mr. Olin apparently retired 3 months ago. So he referred us to Lonnie Ridgway, who we actually received a proposal from that we told him to begin work on it. He called several days after our board meeting and said he came down with the COVID virus and had to self-quarantine and recommended we hire somebody else. So we reached out to CBRE, Richard Ellis out of Albany. They submitted a proposal for $3,500 to get it done within 2 weeks. And I talked to Jeff Lord about it, whether it was reasonable, and he thought, given that it was going to be an entirely new updated, not just an updated appraisal, but a new appraisal, and within a 2-week time frame, that it was a reasonable cost. So we authorized to go ahead with that. And we didn't really, given the time crunch, have a time to really have much of a discussion with the board, but it's $3,500. And we think one way or another, we need the appraisal for the building, whether they stay or move. So that was just an update on where we are on the appraisal. I talked to him yesterday. He's working on it and should have it done by the end of next week.
Great.
Good.
The next one is a similar resolution. It is for setting a public hearing for the systematic power manufacturing doing business as IOXIS. We are trying to make every effort to meet within their deadline. They have submitted a pilot application to us to look at tax advantages for real property taxes and sales tax associated with their project. Obviously, the big question is whether the state is going to provide any financial incentives for them. According to discussions I had yesterday with the regional director from Empire State Development, the review board has agreed to review the project today. So it's a little bit more optimistic than it was about 3 days ago. But in moving this project under their time frame, we'd like to at least begin the review of and setting a public hearing on the resolution for a pilot agreement with this company. And I don't know, again, if Chris has any comments he would like to make on it.
No, Jody, I think it sums it up. This just authorizes you to set the public hearing for this project to move it forward.
All right. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Who was that just commented? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Hi, this is Chris Cannon with Hodgson Russ. I'm here for Joe Scott today.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Chris. Yeah, I know Chris. Yeah, thanks. Sorry.
All right. Is everyone ready to vote on this? Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Dave.
I'll second.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. All right, Megan.
Jeff Joyner,
Yes.
David Rowley,
Yes.
Craig Galbsman,
Yes.
Tom Armeo,
Yes.
Cheryl Robinson,
Yes.
Andrew Marietta,
Yes.
Joshua Edmonds.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. The motion is approved. All right. Jody, go ahead.
We had discussed in the past that we have been working with the county, particularly the county planning department, who received a $200,000 grant from the Office of Community Renewal for a micro enterprise grant. Both the county planning department and our office has been in contact with New York State Housing and Community Renewal, who have agreed to let us switch that grant to emergency funding for small businesses. As part of that, and in order to save some of the money on administrative costs that can go back into providing more direct assistance to the small businesses, we have offered, and amazingly, the county has agreed and accepted for us to administer the grant on behalf of the county. So this is our standard subrecipient agreement that we've done with Custom Electronics, the town of Oneonta. We've also done it with the village of Cooperstown.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the motion passes. All right, next, what do we have? The Hale lease?
I'll defer this actually to Megan to give an update of where we are on this. I did talk to, we had discussed looking at hiring a realtor to help market this company, market the building on Hale Street should we not come to an agreement on the lease. We reached out again to CBRE, Richard Ellis Realty, who actually did the marketing for the management. Their suggestion was if we can come to an agreement, even at a reduced rent, given this time, it may be more appropriate to do that. But Megan, why don't you explain where Mr. Hale went?
At the projects committee meeting, the projects committee agreed that we should make their annual rate if they were willing to pay it $40,000 a year, which brings it down to about $3,300 a month, which we would give them for 4 months, for the next 4 months. So June through September, their rate would be about $3,300, and then in September we could reevaluate the situation and see if maybe we should increase the rent or decrease. And when I sent that to Stephen Hale, he said that that wouldn't work for him. He needs a year, but he still is okay with us putting the building on the market. And should we have a buyer, we could give him a 30-day notice, and he would then decide if he wants to purchase the building or be out in 30 days. But he didn't like the idea of the 4 months. He wanted something, I think, a little bit more concrete. So I'm not really sure where to go from there.
Megan, remind me what that was the reduction of from what to 3,300?
So right now he's paying $5,000 a month, but his lease actually ends as of May. I'm sorry. So.
Right. Okay. Thanks. Sorry.
Yep.
The bus business, traveling tourism, is pretty well dead at this point. So income on his side is probably negligible. If he did the 3,300, if he did 3,300 for 12 months, would he sign it? Is that amenable?
I think he would, because he said that he would do $40,000 a year, so that is $3,300 a month. So I think if we gave him a concrete year, he would do it. He did mention that he got an SBA loan, but it was only for, $150,000 is a lot, but for him, he said that he's lost almost $3 million in business. So I think that's where he's. I'm
sure.
At. Yeah.
Well, the 40,000 is what we're walking away from if we say no.
Correct.
Tom's logic.
Right, and remember that I think Craig had advised, Kurt had advised us that because of the court system, it's difficult right now to do any evictions. And with Mr. Hale offering that if we have another buyer who wants to buy the building, either he'll make that same offer or that he'll vacate in 30 days. I think that's somewhat reasonable.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree as well.
I don't think we need to vote on that, do we, Jody?
No, we just wanted to apprise you, and then Megan will come with an offer, and then if he agrees with that, we'll have Kurt prepare an amendment to the existing lease and bring it back to the board for next month's approval.
So, Jody,
I just think you need to look. I mean, you got to figure what we want to do as a board. Do we want him as a long-term tenant, or we just want him as a year? So I think the deal has to be put together in that aspect. And what does he want? Does he want something long-term? Because I can tell you that some properties that I own downstate, some big companies are. What they're saying is they're doing abatements for a certain amount of time, but extending the lease on the backside. So I think you have to ask him what he. And maybe I missed something, but does he want a long-term lease ultimately, is that what he's looking for? Or is he just looking to go for 1 year? I missed that. Did you talk to him about that, Jody, or Megan, or somebody?
He hasn't
I
gone
think
beyond a year. I haven't heard anything beyond a year from him. All he said that he would pay us $40,000 for the next year, and he didn't say anything about beyond that. But I can have that
I think he's
conversation.
extremely concerned about the loss of his ridership and the loss of his revenues. And so he's a little unsure as to whether within a year he's still going to be in business.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right, thank you. We'll move down to public comment period. Okay. Hearing nothing, I don't think we need an executive session.
I would like to
So-
give a brief update on what we discussed regarding marketing.
Okay.
We did have a GoToMeeting yesterday that Tom was part of. Megan was on it, Tim Johnson from Otsego Electric, and we asked a gentleman, Chris from Vibrant Brands, to give us some of his advice. I think Megan pretty well summed it up, is that what his suggestion is that we spend very little money on creativity and more money on delivering our message, as Megan indicated. That if you give them a $50,000 budget, like to his firm, they would spend $45,000 on the creative end and only $5,000 to $10,000 on the actual marketing. He is willing to work with us for a nominal fee of like $2,500 to assist us in being the go-between between our agency and the marketing firm that we hire, to make sure that most of the money, the majority of the money, is going into the delivery of the message as opposed to the creative portion of it. We, in our revised budget, we threw in a number of $50,000 for marketing. He indicated that he thought that that was a reasonable budget, that we shouldn't be spending more than maybe between his services and another design professional, maybe $5,000 to $10,000, that we would need to update our webpage to have a landing point for another $5,000 to $10,000, and that the rest of the money go into direct marketing as far as Google.com or that type of a media. We identified, he's working on right now RFPs, a brief RFP for marketing companies. We identified Paper Kite, Sweet Home Productions, John Hayen at Town Square Media, to send those to and ask them to get back to us with proposals. And that's kind of where we are right now. If anybody has any questions for Megan or myself or Tom.
So this is Cheryl. I just want to jump in on a couple things. One, to pay an in-between to manage a marketing firm. I mean, you guys have to make that call, but that's what the marketing firm should be doing for you. You set the direction in terms of how you want your money spent, and they deliver a plan and execute on it. So it seems interesting to me to have a middleman managing a marketing firm. The second thing I do want to note too is, just so we're all on the same page, Paper Kite is who we used to have to do our website. And I think we saw very little output. That could have been because of what we gave them in expenses. I'm not sure. It was a little bit before my time. But just 2 notes on that front.
Just a perspective, and I've known Chris, done business with him for 15 years. We invited him in. I hire consultants when I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm not sure, he's done a lot of business up and down in New York City. He used to live in Delaware. He used to live here in Delaware County, moved up to, I think, Saratoga. But he still does work for me and can move the needle. I think his input, he's efficient with my money. And his consulting benefit to us is making sure we spend the money where we get a return. And looking at it as being, efficient with the dollars. We're into a media that most of us don't know how it works, how to beat the system, for lack of a better term. And to me, his advice would be worth the small commission. I do a lot of different things with him. I've learned in the last 15 years of working with him what we can do, what we can afford to do. what moves the needle, which is all trackable. His knowledge of Otsego County and his knowledge of the New York City market, I think he can make a sensible, cost-effective, if that's where it exists in this realm, plan for us, help us with it, because I'm not sure that I would know. I mean, I have a rough idea, but how to execute it. And his concern with a creative firm is, once again, they'd spend 80% of the money or more on creative, and then there's nothing to launch. And with a market that big and that many people, somehow you have to find somebody interested, who has some flicker of interest in upstate or Otsego County or something, and spend your money there. And I think his help would be invaluable. One man's opinion.
I know Chris well too. He is good, and I can't imagine that he would even offer to. He could probably do all of it. To be honest with you, I don't know what he why we would hire somebody else above him to manage. I mean, he should put an offer in to do it. I mean, I've worked with him, and he need to direct him, but he knows where to go, and he understands the clicks. And he understands that I don't know where 50K came from for whatever reason, but we have some sort of budget. Seems a little much. Seems like a good budget for marketing. We should have done 2 years ago, but that's beside the point. But I think that he's good, and I think you should question him on why do we need someone above you? What do you need to manage them? I can't imagine he even saying that. But
I didn't think he didn't want. I think he didn't want to appear to be in it for the money. He would just really. Okay.
Yeah, it just surprises me because he should be right in putting a bid in with the Town Square Media and those. I think all four of them are good, and I'm surprised that he wouldn't do that. So, but he's good. I think all four of those you should get good bid. I think they'll all do a good job. So, see what we get back.
Jody,
we're only
Megan,
2 months behind on this, but that's beside the point.
Okay, Jody and Megan, I'm still not clear exactly what are our objectives. I know we're talking about marketing, we're talking about this community, but what are the clear objectives? Have we set those forth to the company?
That's the next thing that we're actually working on, is who is our market for this. Originally, it was to look for downstate residents who were looking to move out of the New York metropolitan area. It got broadened to downstate small businesses who may want to relocate to a rural environment. It then became, in our discussion, it became interesting with Tim Johnson, who indicated that a lot of the attractions that they've been seeing with high-speed internet have been coming from the Connecticut area and not the downstate. So we're trying to hone in as to who our market is actually going to be. And it's really for both people who want to work remotely from home or people who want to have more secure environments for their small businesses to work in a more rural environment.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments regarding that issue?
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I think I know Chris as well very well. And I mean, I think to the point about consultants, I mean, I guess I think of my own organization. I work for an icon. I mean, we use consultants all the time for marketing and technology projects because we don't know what we don't know. And I think especially this concept of the New York City market, I think this is new, and I think a consultant really guiding our efforts and helping us really figure out how to best leverage our money makes sense. So I mean, I personally, I feel that I don't have a personal conflict. I'm very good friends with Chris, so I don't want to advocate for any particular person, but I do think the role of the consultant in this case makes perfect sense, because I think hiring a local marketing firm in Otsego County without having a little bit more of a plan, of what we're trying to accomplish with this New York City kind of targeted effort, I think it might be a waste of money without more more direction.
I agree, Andrew. We just have to get it correct, and that's what Jody and Megan need to get. We just need to get it correct and present it to us correctly, and then make a decision. You're right.
That's correct. We're not asking for any vote right now. We're just explaining that what we've been working on because the board had asked us to look into it.
Okay. Well, thank you for the update. All right. Anything else for today?
Yeah, Jeff, I just have a quick question for Jody on, at this point, you know, obviously not knowing whether New York State's going to actually be involved. What's your sense of what's going on with the IOCCRC issue? Is he
My sense is
Maybe it's an executive. I'm just not doing it, but maybe this is an executive session type question, right? Maybe not.
that may be. What do you think?
my general sense is that if you would have asked me a month and a half ago, I would have said that he had no intention of staying in New York, that he was going to move everything to Tennessee. I think over the last month, he's come to respect what we've been attempting to do and has embraced the support that he's been given. The town supervisor, for example, has agreed to, and he has talked to the town board, and they've agreed to take over the road. Senator Schumer's office reached out to him. Empire State Development reached out to his senior management team. The Chamber of Commerce. I mean, I think he's been really supportive of what we've been trying to do. Clearly, the issue is going to be that he wants to see that New York State wants him more than Tennessee wants him, and so that's his dilemma right now. If he was going to, he made his decision already not to consider us, he wouldn't have submitted that pilot agreement.
So my last question is: Should can I make a motion to go executive session for the purpose of contracts? Andrew, help me on this one. You've been doing it more. I've been out a couple of years. For contracts and
I think around. I mean, this directly impacts our rental contract agreement.
Yeah. So let's.
How do we go into executive session?
I make a
now?
motion.
I'll second that motion.
Chris can help me. Chris, go ahead.
There's a motion on the floor to go into executive session, discuss contracts, rentals. Do I have a second?
Yeah, second.
Second, Dave Riley. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
What I think Megan's just trying to point out, we don't have another line here because the county, we usually have a conference line. So when we go into executive session, we actually call in on a different line, or we have a separate Zoom call set up
I don't have that set up. And we're recording this.
Okay. Then I would make the motion. I would ask that someone make the motion. We table this discussion until next meeting.
And I can create a separate one for the next meeting. For us to figure out how to do that.
Well, hopefully the next meeting in June we will all be together. So.
Well, we can all definitely meet at Walmart. Or liquor store. Jeff and I decided last time I'll meet in a liquor store. We can go there.
All right, we'll move that subject to the next meeting. Any other discussions for today?
We just have to do the OCCRC agenda quick. So adjourn.
Yeah, we'll do that after we adjourn. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
Tom.
Thank you. Second?
Cheryl.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned then. All right, let's go into, let's see, pull up that agenda.
Yep.
OCCRC. Roll call, Megan.
Jeff Joyner.
Here.
Jeff Lord. David Rowley.
Here.
Craig Gelbsman.
Yep.
Tom Romeo.
Here.
Patricia Kennedy. Cheryl Robinson.
Here.
Andrew Marietta.
Here.
Joshua Edmonds.
Here.
Okay.
All right, we have a quorum. I will defer the remarks since we've already done that. So we've got the minutes from the April 23rd meeting. Any questions, comments, concerns? If not, can we get a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Dave. Second.
A second.
Thank you, Cheryl. All in favor, approve those minutes?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. And we have no new or unfinished business. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
Tom,
All right. Can I get a second?
Cheryl.
Thanks,
Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Thank you. All right. We are adjourned. And then finally we go to
Oh, no,
COIDA.
we're done.
Sorry.